The world of gospel music and the millions of lives touched by his ministry came to a collective, heart-stopping standstill in early January 2026. It was a week that began like any other, a fresh start to a new year. But for Jonathan McReynolds, a man whose voice has become a sanctuary for the weary, it nearly became his final chapter. At just 36 years old, MC Reynolds has built a career on the foundation of transparency, often using his music to bridge the gap between the divine and the deeply human. But no song could have prepared his global audience for the sobering news that emerged from a Nashville trauma center. The Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter, and beloved author was involved in a harrowing motorcycle accident that left him shattered not just in spirit but in body. This wasn't just a minor spill or a cautionary tale. It was a life-altering collision that resulted in multiple broken bones, including his ribs and his arm, the very limb he uses to master the piano keys that have defined his sound for over a decade. The incident, occurring on a routine ride through the crisp Tennessee air, has sparked an unprecedented outpouring of prayer, yet beneath the support lies a growing current of anxiety. When Jonathan finally broke his silence on Instagram, the update was far from the polished, visual content his fans were used to. It was a text-only post, a stark white-on-black message that lacked the smiling face of the man the industry calls the Bachelor of the Year. He told his followers he was doing really well and expressed profound gratitude, but the absence of a photo has led many to wonder about the true severity of the physical toll this accident has taken on his body. Is he hiding the extent of the damage, or is he simply in too much pain to face the camera? These questions have dominated the comment sections, creating a digital visual for a man who has always been so open with his journey. To understand why this moment feels so heavy for the gospel community, one must look at the man behind the motorcycle. Born on March 17, 1989, in the heart of Chicago, Jonathan McReynolds was never just another singer in the choir. Raised in a household where the pulpit and the piano were the twin pillars of existence, he was a prodigy who began playing at 5 and crafting his own lyrical narratives by 8. His journey through Columbia College Chicago wasn't just about obtaining a degree. It was about deconstructing what gospel music could be. He didn't just want to sing about faith, he wanted to sing about the struggle to keep it. When his independent debut Life music hit the charts in 2012, it didn't just climb, it shifted the atmosphere. Songs like No Gray weren't just hits. They were manifestos for a generation tired of religious performance. He became the voice of the introspective believer, the one who admits to the cycles of failure and the desperate need for room in a crowded life. This accident, occurring just as he was peaking in his career, feels like a cruel irony for a man who has spent years teaching others how to find peace in the chaos. The details of the crash itself paint a terrifying picture of how quickly a moment of stress relief can turn into a battle for survival. Sources close to the artist suggest that MC Reynolds, a seasoned writer who often shared his love for the open road as a way to connect with God's creation, lost control of his bike on a clear day. There were no other vehicles involved, no reckless drivers to blame, just a split-second loss of traction that sent the 36-year-old airborne. The impact was violent. He was airlifted to a Nashville hospital, a move usually reserved for the most critical of traumas, where he underwent immediate emergency surgery to stabilize his fractures. While doctors now describe him as stable, the road ahead is anything but certain. For a musician, a broken arm is more than a medical diagnosis. It is a threat to their vocation. For a singer, whose breath control is essential to his craft, broken ribs represent a long, painful climb back to the stage. This is perhaps why Jonathan announced he would be logging off social media entirely. The man who has been so accessible to his Elihu Nation nonprofit and his students at Moody Bible Institute is now retreating into the shadows to fight a private battle for his mobility. The weight of this silence is amplified by the fact that McReynolds has always been the artist who stays connected. In the age of digital transparency, he managed to cultivate a persona that was both elite in talent and neighborly in spirit. When he moved to Nashville, he didn't just move for the industry. He moved to find a rhythm of life that allowed him to breathe. His motorcycles were a huge part of that rhythm. To fans, seeing him on his bike was a sign that Jonathan was okay, that he was finding balance. Now, the very machine that gave him peace has become the source of his greatest trial. This duality is something he has often explored in his lyrics, the idea that our greatest loves can sometimes lead to our greatest pains. As the news of the 2025 spike in motorcycle accidents began to circulate alongside his name, the conversation shifted from just a get-well message to a larger discussion on safety and the fragility of life. For a man who teaches songwriting as a form of theology, this accident is a brutal, unwritten verse in a song no one wanted to hear. The medical journey he faces now is one of grueling discipline. Orthopedic recovery is rarely a straight line. It is a series of small, painful victories. Dr. Marcus Hale, though not on Jonathan's direct surgical team, noted that the psychological impact of such an injury on a creative can be just as taxing as the physical breaks. For a pianist, the recovery of fine motor skills in an arm that has been fractured requires not just healing of the bone, but the retraining of the nerves and muscles. Every time Jonathan would have reached for a melody in the past, he will now have to reach through a layer of physical therapy and scar tissue. And yet, if anyone has the discipline to navigate this, it is the man who worked his way from a Chicago college student to a guest lecturer at Harvard Divinity School. He has always approached his faith with a certain intellectual rigor, and those who know him expect him to apply that same Allahu spirit to his rehabilitation. He isn't just a patient, he is a student of his own restoration. Beyond the hospital walls, the ripple effect of his absence is being felt across the entire entertainment landscape. Jonathan isn't just a gospel singer, he is a bridge. He is the artist who can sit on the Breakfast Club and talk about the nuances of burnout and fame, then turn around and lead a worship service that moves thousands to tears. His collaborations with artists like India.Airy and his production work with breakout stars like Doe have made him a central pillar of the Life Room movement. With his spring tours on hold and his 2026 album, the one he promised would be his most vulnerable, now potentially delayed, there is a palpable void. Fans are left wondering, what does vulnerability look like now? Does the album change? Does the man change? In his 2018 TEDx talk, he spoke about making room for what matters most. In a strange, tragic way, this accident has cleared his schedule entirely, forcing him to make room for nothing but his own breath and his own God. This forced sabbatical comes at a time when McReynolds was arguably at his most influential. He had become a mentor to a new generation, a big brother in the industry who managed to stay out of the tabloids while remaining deeply relevant. The Bachelor of the Year jokes were always lighthearted, but they pointed to a deeper truth. Jonathan was the safe artist, the one you could trust with your heart and your headphones. To see him brought low by a mechanical failure and a patch of road is a reminder that even the most grounded among us are subject to the laws of physics and the whims of a routine ride. His team's confirmation that refunds are being processed for his upcoming shows is a pragmatic reality that hits home for many fans. This isn't just a social media break, this is a career on pause. But even in the pause, there is a message. Jonathan's life has always been a narrative of triumph over rejection. He was the kid who was told his music was too urban for traditional gospel and too gospel for the mainstream. Yet he found a way to exist in both worlds. He built a non-profit, Allahu Nation, specifically to empower young people who felt like they didn't fit the mold. Now, as he sits in a hospital room in Nashville, he is living out the very message of his 2020 EP People, the idea that we are all interconnected, and that our struggles are what make us human. The thousands of comments under his January 5th post are more than just engagement metrics. They are a digital prayer shawl. They are testimonies from people who say cycles help them break an addiction or not lucky, help them survive a layoff. The community is now giving back to the man who gave them a soundtrack for their survival. As we look toward the middle of 2026, The question on everyone's mind is when we will see him again. Not just hear him, but see him. The text-only update was a protective measure, a way to keep the world out while he was in his most broken state. But for an audience that feels like they've grown up with him, the wait for a video or a photo of a smiling, recovering Jonathan is intense. We are looking for the proverbial 31 woman he joked about, but more than that, we are looking for the return of a voice that speaks truth to power and peace to the soul. His story isn't over, it's just in a very difficult bridge. If his past work is any indication, the music that comes out of this hospital stay will be some of the most profound the genre has ever seen. He has always been a songwriter who leans into the truth, and there is no truth more raw than a body being knit back together after a fall. The gospel world continues to hold its breath, not out of fear, but out of a collective, expectant hope. We remember the 2025 interview where he said he was human, and that accidents remind us to slow down. He has always been ahead of his time, even in his own premonition. As the Ride Safe TN campaigns gain traction, and the industry adjusts to his absence, the core message remains the one Jonathan himself shared: cherish life. Every day is a gift, and every breath is a grace. The man from Chicago, who taught us all how to make room, is now in a room of his own, doing the hard work of healing. And when he finally steps back into the light, with his arm healed, and his ribs strong enough to carry those soaring high notes again, the world will be ready to listen. Because if Jonathan McReynolds has taught us anything, it's that we are just lucky, we are loved. And that love is exactly what is carrying him through this Nashville winter toward a spring of restoration. As the weeks turn into months, the silence from his official channels has created a space for reflection among his followers. It's a rare thing in our hyper-connected world to see a public figure truly log off, especially when they are at the height of their influence. But for MC Reynolds, this isn't just about physical recovery, it's a spiritual discipline. He has spent years being the person everyone else leans on: the professor at Moody, the leader of Elihu Nation, the son, the brother, and the artist. This accident, as devastating as it was, stripped away all those titles in a single moment on a Nashville highway. In that trauma center, he wasn't a Grammy nominee, he was a man in need of a miracle, and perhaps that is the most vulnerable he could ever be. This period of quiet is allowing the seeds of his next chapter to take root in the soil of his struggle. We often want the comeback before we've even processed the setback, but Jonathan's life has always been about the process. The industry impact of his hiatus cannot be overstated. Gospel music, while deeply rooted in tradition, has often struggled to maintain a presence in the mainstream without losing its soul. Jonathan was the rare exception who could navigate a high-profile secular interview with the same grace he navigated a Sunday morning service. Without his voice at the upcoming spring festivals, there is a sense that a vital link in the chain is missing. Other artists have stepped up, not to replace him, but to honor him. At recent concerts, it's become common to hear a Jonathan McReynolds medley as a tribute, a way for the community to keep his melodies in the air while he finds his own voice again. This solidarity is a reflection of the Elihu spirit, the idea that we are better when we are supporting one another. Even as he recovers in private, his influence is circulating through the voices of his friends and the prayers of his fans. The silence of a hospital room is a foreign sound for a man whose life has been a symphony of acclaim, academic rigor, and constant travel. For Jonathan McReynolds, these quiet Nashville nights are perhaps the most profound life music he has ever composed. We often view our cultural icons as invincible figures, distant stars who navigate life with a grace that seems unattainable to the rest of us. But this accident has stripped away the Grammy-nominated veneer and left us with the core of the man, a 36-year-old human being learning to breathe through the pain of broken ribs and the frustration of a restricted arm. This period of forced stillness is not just a medical necessity. It is becoming a cultural case study in how to suffer with dignity. In an era where every moment is curated for the gram, Jonathan's choice to remain a text-only presence is a revolutionary act of self-preservation. It teaches us that some battles are won in the dark, far from the flicker of a smartphone screen, and that doing really well doesn't always mean you're ready for a close-up. It means you're doing the internal work required to survive the external damage. As the gospel community watches and waits, there is a growing realization that the Jonathan McReynolds who eventually walks out of those hospital doors will be a different man than the one who rode into that January afternoon. He has always been a songwriter of the mind, a thinker who deconstructs the complexities of faith with surgical precision. Now, he is becoming a songwriter of the body and the breath. When he finally returns to the piano, the way he strikes the keys will carry the memory of the fractures he overcame. When he sings about God's protection, it won't be a theoretical concept from a textbook. It will be a first-hand testimony from the pavement. This transformation is what makes his upcoming 2026 album so anticipated. What was once teased as his most vulnerable work has now been christened by fire. The truth he was seeking in his 2023 project has found him in the most visceral way possible. Fans aren't just waiting for a new hit. They are waiting for a blueprint on how to rebuild after a total loss of control. This accident also serves as a sobering reminder to the Elihu Nation, the young creatives he has spent years empowering. He has always taught them to find where faith fits in their lives, and now he is showing them where faith fits when your body fails you. His legacy during this hiatus is being carried forward by the very students he mentored at Moody and Harvard. They are seeing that their professor isn't just a man with a platform, but a man with a pulse, subject to the same cycles of life and death as everyone else. The Bachelor of the Year charm has been replaced by a quiet, steely resilience that is far more attractive than any title. As he navigates physical therapy and the slow knitting of bone and sinew, he is writing a new chapter for the gospel genre, one that emphasizes the human over the hymn. So, we stay tuned, not out of a sense of celebrity voyeurism, but out of a genuine love for a voice that has guided us through our own dark nights. Jonathan McReynolds has given the world a soundtrack for its struggles. And now the world is returning the favor through a global chorus of prayer. The motorcycles may be parked for now, and the tour buses may be quiet, but the message of Jonathan's life is louder than ever. Life is unpredictable, grace is sufficient, and the most beautiful songs are often the ones we sing while we're still learning how to stand. As he prepares for his comeback, he leaves us with a simple, profound challenge to cherish the routine days because they are the true miracles. The light of Chicago's favorite sun is far from flickering out. It is simply gathering the strength to shine with a brilliance we've never seen before. We wait, we pray, and we prepare to listen. Because the best part of Jonathan McReynolds' story is the part he hasn't written yet. Think about the impact one voice can have. For years, Jonathan has been the one providing the words for our worship, the melodies for our meditation, and the logic for our love of God. Now, in his absence, the silence he has left behind is speaking just as loudly. It is reminding us that even the most gifted among us are fragile. It is reminding us that our health is a gift we often take for granted until it is nearly taken away. But more than anything, it is reminding us that the community Jonathan built, the fans, the fellow artists, the students, is strong enough to hold him up while he can't stand it on his own. This is the true power of life music. It isn't just about the notes on a page or the streams on a platform. It's about the lives that are changed and the hearts that are knit together in times of trouble. As the medical reports slowly trickle out, we hear of the small victories, a finger moving, a breath taken without pain, a night of restful sleep. These are the miracles we are celebrating now. And while we miss the music, we are grateful for the man. The gospel world is a tighter, more prayerful place because of this tragedy. We have been forced to look past the charts and the awards and see the human being who pours his soul into every lyric. Jonathan McReynolds is more than a singer. He is a brother in the faith, and his journey toward restoration is a journey we are all taking with him. So, as we close this update, let us take his words to heart. Let us enjoy every day. Let us make the most of every moment. And let us keep the prayers going for the man who has given us so much. The stage is waiting, the piano is ready, and the world is listening. We love you, Jonathan. Heal well, heal strong, and come back when you're ready. We'll be right here waiting for the next song. Jonathan McReynolds has spent his entire career teaching us how to make room for what matters. And right now, what matters most is the power of a community standing together. His journey from that Nashville highway to full restoration is a story that is still being written, and we are committed to bringing you every update as he fights his way back to the stage. But before you go, I want to hear from you. Which Jonathan McReynolds song has been the soundtrack to your toughest seasons? Was it Cycles, No Gray? Or perhaps Not Lucky, I'm Loved? Drop your favorite lyrics and your prayers for his recovery in the comments below. Let's turn this comment section into a wall of support that he can see when he logs back on. If you found value in this deep dive into Jonathan's life and legacy, please hit that like button. It truly helps us share these stories of faith with more people. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications. We have more exclusive content coming up on the icons of gospel music and the story that move the soul. Thank you for watching. Keep the faith. And remember, you aren't just lucky, you are loved. We'll see you in the next one.